Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So it's time for us to do those 1 minute book recs. This is where we go over all the books we've read in the past week with 1 minute synopses for each book. But first,
can't decide what I want to do with my hair.
Mandy, I have something to show them, but do you want to tell them really quick and then I'll show them?
So we are working on our new giveaway. So we're going to road to 1.5K.
It's the road to 2K, but we're going to make a stop at 1,500.
Yeah. Yes. So at 1,500, we have another one of our favorite authors' books to give away. And this would be the lovely Calla Reed.
I have a lovely stack here that I'll show off a little bit more. So Calla sent me a box full of books a few weeks ago, and we've been holding on to these and trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this, but we've decided that at 1,500, one lucky subscriber is going to win. I have six books here. So you will win all 6 of these books by Calla Reed. So let me just go through them real quick. The first one is The 16th Need. I still need to read this one, but Mandy loved this one.
Oh, that's her newest release. It's been out for, in May it'll be a year.
Yep.
And it is fantastic. It is up on my shelf.
Yeah, up there somewhere.
Right there, but I don't think you can see that very well.
These are all signed by Calla as well. They're all of them are signed.
Well, I am going to be going and creating my own account to follow this channel, so
you can get it. Yeah.
I want signed Calla Reed books too.
And then we have Figure 8. Mandy read this one last week. This one's not a romance. It's what is it?
It's a psychological thriller, but it's so good.
Okay, so the Figure 8, one of our other favorites, Unhinged.
Oh, from the Fairfax series.
She's in a psych ward. And then we have her, what do we call these guys? These are the what brothers, Mandy? Sloan brothers.
The Sloan brothers.
So this is these are 3 books. These are all in the same world, I think. So we have, I don't even know which order they go in. Because I have, this is book 1. So this one is Every Which Way.
I just started that one, and then Calla Reed and I had some messaging, and I'm going to go ahead and continue.
Okay. And then book 2 is Breaking the Wrong. And then book 3 is Ruin You Completely. Wow. I couldn't read there for a second. Yeah.
Every Which Way is her very first book.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, to Calla for sending these. And wow, my voice just decided to stop working there.
Jessica's hitting puberty. Don't mind her.
Again. Yeah. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button and follow us and give us a like. And subscribing gets you in the running for.
Yes. You can also get an extra entry by following us over on Instagram as well.
And all that information is in the description box linked below. So do that. So yes. So we're excited to be able to give these away to you guys. So Calla Reed is an amazing author. So.
Yes, she is.
Can I just say, it's so good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you. And I mean, I know I saw you a couple nights ago when we recorded, but it was such a long stretch this time.
It was. It was.
I don't like it. So, okay. So tell me how your reading week went.
Oh, it was weird. I had some 5 stars and I had some books that just weren't that great.
Yeah. How many books did you read?
7. How about you?
5. My week was also weird. We mentioned in the last video that I was at the hospital with my daughter and I was there longer than I expected. We were in the hospital Friday through Tuesday, and you think, I'm going to get all these books read because she's just going to sleep. Well, no, she didn't sleep. And B, every 3 seconds, somebody was interrupting me, whether it was her needing something or it was a nurse coming in, and you just can't get things read like you would think. So, yeah, I did a couple like rereads, and I had like 1 or 2 new, but I only read 5.
Okay.
So. which I figured was pretty good while she was in the hospital. So, yeah. So anyhow,
Okay.
So you are gonna start us. Go for it.
All right. My first read of the week is Who's Your Daddy by Lauren Rowe. Oh my gosh, this was such a good book. The name sounds a little cheesy, but it is not a cheesy book. It was fantastic. So we have Marnie and Max. Both of them are not looking for a relationship. Marnie has a little girl who has, she was I think she was a preemie, and so she has had some health challenges, and so Marnie is just really focused on her daughter, and then she wants to eventually start looking for Mr. Right because she just went through a nasty breakup where she found out the guy she was seeing was actually married, and she had no idea. So she runs into Max one evening at Captain's. So if you've read any of Lauren Rowe's other books, you should know about Captain. So I was so excited to kind of go back in that world a little bit. And they end up deciding to hook up. Max is a lawyer. He is determined to make it to partner like 2 years before anyone else has ever done this. So he's just a huge workaholic. So doesn't want any strings. Okay. So they hook up, they have a great evening together and a great morning together, and they're kind of making some plans. And both of them in their minds are like, why are we making plans to do stuff? But things were really hot between them. And while he is in the shower, she happens to spot a picture of Max and his dad. She is a little bit older than Max. And it turns out Max's dad is her ex that is married, who's on his like third marriage, not to Max's mom. And she freaks out because, I mean, obviously, that's something to kind of freak out about. So she flees. And then they end up running into each other a year later, but he still has no idea why she fled. I loved this book so much, Jessica. It was a 5-star for me. It has that age gap that I love, but it was reverse in this one. So that it feels a little different though when everybody's adults over the age gap thing, but
Yeah.
it kind of worked for this situation because he is her ex's son. Bye.
Cool.
Loved it.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And Jessica, they met at Captain's.
Yay! It's been a long
Don't
time.
you remember that?
I know who that is, but I only read the first 2 books.
Really?
So I did read his book. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. So my first book of the week, again, I warned you guys, this is going to be a reread situation, but last week I read Gail's Family by Ruby Dixon, and that it has the little baby Zoran in it from, the islands. And it really made me want to go back to the very beginning of that series and read about like when we first meet, that whole situation. So that's what I did. So I'm going to tell you about it real quick. All right. So I read Lauren's Barbarian. This is the first book in the Ice Home series. So if you've read Ice Planet Barbarians, or at least gotten halfway through Ice Planet Barbarians, this is the spinoff. And I honestly, for me, the Ice Home ones are my favorite. I mean, like there's the OG, and I get it, but the Ice Home books are my absolute favorite. So this is about Lauren. She's new to the ice planet. There's been another spaceship situation happening there. And this one didn't crash. It landed there. But she and a bunch of other girls are discovered. And they wake them all up. And they're headed to Ice Home Beach to destroy the ship because they don't want slavers to be able to find it because of the little monitoring system. And so she and another girl get into a situation where they end up getting stranded in this little vessel out in the ocean, and they end up actually landing onto a tropical island in this ice world. And so it's really interesting, like, where'd this come from? And that's where she meets Cathar. He and a bunch of other guys are native to this planet, or to this island. He's got 4 arms. It's great. They resonate immediately, and then she doesn't know where her friend went because when she wakes up, the friend's not there. But
your timer went off a while ago.
Yeah, well, I can't hear it.
You hear
So
it when it went off for me.
I did, but I couldn't hear it when I was talking. Maybe when I'm talking, you tap and switch it over. Otherwise, I can't hear it.
Okay, we can do that. I can just
Yeah.
tap it then. Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow, this island is an active volcano and they got to get off of it. So, I love their story.
Okay.
Okay.
So, after I
Yeah.
read Who's Your Daddy and they were at Captain's, it just made me really think about the Lauren Rowe 22 Goats and all of that, Morgan Brothers universe. And I remembered that I've always wanted to go back and read Smitten, which is Fish's book from 22 Goats. So that is what I did.
Okay. Well, let's hear all about that.
Yes. So this is Smitten by Lauren Rowe. It's not actually a numbered series book, but it's part of the 22 Goats world. And this has Fish, Matthew, and Alessandra. And Fish is always kind of described a little bit different than the rest of the band in that he's a little more quiet, a little more awkward around girls. And I just want to read you this quote that sums up him so perfectly. When he meets Alessandra, he is like smitten with her. And he says, I'm a goat called Fish who's hung like a bull, but not really. I'm actually pretty average. And then he's like, oh my God, could this get any worse? But Alessandra is also kind of quiet and reserved and more nervous around people as well. So this is just really a very, very sweet story about two people who haven't quite found the other person for them. And this is their story. It's not drama filled or anything like that. It's just a really sweet cinnamon roll hero story.
Okay. Cool.
4 stars. Solid 4 stars.
Yay. Yay. All right.
Your yays are sounding very sarcastic today.
I'm sorry. They're just very tired yays. I still haven't recovered at all. Like, I feel like I could just sleep for a month. I'm just that tired. Yeah. No matter what I do. I mean, I did stay up till midnight reading a book last night, but that's a whole different story.
I stayed up really late listening to a book that I am really enjoying. So if we could hurry this up.
I know I didn't finish it. I need to finish it. And we say that because Mandy and I start recording at 8 a.m. on Saturdays. There's no sleeping in for us. So, because we wake up that early anyway. But anyhow, okay.
Last week I slept in because we didn't record. I think that you are hindering my sleeping.
Maybe that's it.
Early morning recording business. Hey, also, your bookshelf looks like it's falling into my bookshelf again. Like it's falling over.
Because when it goes to like just me on the screen, it doesn't look like that, but it's cutting it up, so you get the optical illusion of the side of the wall.
It never used to look like that. Some things changed with how. Oh, you move stuff around because of your desk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So for my next book, I went back into that world that January. So January Rain wrote the next book, and remember how I said it was like paranormal last week? I talked about that one book where he had the tentacle situation going on.
Oh dear.
This was just vampires. It's okay. It's okay. So this is in the same town, in that same world. This is what was originally written. There's several books in this series. I think there's like 3 out right now. So this book that I read is, let me switch over here. So this is Eternally Damned by January Rain. This is the first book in her Shallow Cove Dimensions. There is a novella that takes place before this book that's a prequel novella. I do recommend reading or listening to that one. That's the only one that actually has audio at this point, but I would read it or listen to it because it sets up the world. It doesn't have an HEA technically yet because it's just setting up the world, but we learn a lot about Shallow Cove there. But yeah, this is about Maven and Alexander. Maven is, she doesn't realize it, but she's like a baby witch, and she comes from a long line of witches, but she doesn't know that in the beginning. She's very drawn to this mansion that is in their town, and she doesn't know why. Like her whole life, that's all she's ever wanted is to be to buy the Monroe estate. It's been left just sitting and crumbling. What she doesn't know, and what happens at the beginning of the book, is that Alexander, who is a vampire, is bitten by a werewolf during this battle. And when they're bitten by a werewolf, it puts him into like a coma situation. And so he is like in this crypt in a coma, waiting for his beloved, which is his true mate, to come and rescue him. And so she buys the estate and starts seeing and hearing the ghost of Alexander. So it was unique. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I was really into it. And I can't wait to read the next one. So like, as far as paranormal goes, it was really good. So I'm loving it.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking I probably only hit the 4 stars on Goodreads. I need to go back and change it because I've been thinking about this book all week. So I think it deserves the 5. So I'll double check that.
You did only rate it a 5. Good
4?
for you. 4, sorry. Good for you.
I'm going to go fix that.
Going back and fixing that.
Yes. All right. So tell me what you read next.
Okay. So one of my favorite Corinne Michael books is Help Me Remember.
Yes.
And that's part of her Rose Canyon series. And she only put 3 books out in that series. And I was like, oh, I've never read the last one. I'm going to go read it. So I went to read it. I was really disappointed.
I'm sorry.
But okay, let me tell you about it.
Tell us about it. All right.
Okay. So this is about Sophie and Holden. Sophie is British and her husband is dying, and he tells her something. He's gotten himself involved in something. Her and her daughter's life are in danger. She needs to leave now, and he has everything arranged. And so she ends up flying back to the States and then getting moved around for several days before she ends up in Rose Canyon. And she gets basically delivered to Holden, who happens to be her one night stand from Vegas a few years ago, and her daughter's biological father, who she was never able to track down because it was Vegas, one night stand, So I am into this book all the way to here, and then it just really started to go south for me. And I can't really pinpoint exactly why. There were just a lot of little things, and I started to lose interest. There were coincidences that were happening that I just were like, oh, this doesn't feel very believable. And I know we've talked about, like, when she unravels, that was brought up, our buddy Reed, that there were a lot of coincidences in there. And I actually said, for me, it worked. Like I followed those and I wasn't questioning that because, things like everybody can talk about like random coincidences and things like that. Like I've been on vacation. We live in a very small area, and I've been on vacation before and ran into people I know. Like stuff happens. But for whatever reason, the coincidences were not holding out for me in here. There was a moment where they reconnect when there's something pretty serious going on. And I was like, I just don't believe that the mom is going to want to be fooling around right now. There was just stuff that just kept making me go, ugh. And then I just was like, is this book over yet? But I love Corinne Michaels. I have read a bunch of her books and really, really enjoyed them. Like I said, the first book in this series is like all-time favorite book of mine. But for whatever reason, this book just fell flat for me. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. I don't feel like I was being like overly harsh or overly generous. I think it was just a 3-star book. I liked it, but there were parts where I was just like, ugh, are we done yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you said that, because when I read it, I felt the same way. And I was questioning. Yeah, I think I'll probably give it a pity 4. But anyhow, I would think, because it's Corinne Michaels and I love Corinne Michaels. But
I know it feels weird, but like this
to me being a secret baby situation, whatever, I was like, this is it. Like there's all this, like I was so ready for this book. I skipped the first book to read this book. And so then I was questioning, was it me because I skipped? Was it the audio? Because in the audio, the narrator, so this character, our female character, has an English accent because she's from the UK. But the person who's voicing her in the audio, I felt sounded too older, like too old to do it. She wasn't old, but she just sounded older than what I would expect this heroine to be. And she was very prim and proper. I mean, I guess that's part of it, but I couldn't tell if it was the accent and listening to it or if it was the story. But now I know it's the story. It just didn't do it for me either. I got very bored. And that's not typical of Corinne Michaels. I love Corinne Michaels.
Yeah.
So this is probably like my least favorite of all of Corinne's books. I have a whole shelf dedicated to her over
Yes.
there.
So this is a good example that sometimes an author's book may just not work for you, but
Mhm.
you could still give the author another chance.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if this would have been my first book by her, I would have missed out on like one of my absolute favorite books.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. Anyway, moving
Okay,
on.
moving
What's
on.
next?
So I did a reread. I actually did this like smack dab in the middle of our hospital stay. And if you've been here on our channel for more than 3 minutes, you're going to know that this is my all-time favorite book.
Oh,
It is.
I
It is.
love it.
Yeah, and if you haven't been here, I just feel like you need to hear about this book. It's a trilogy, but we're going to talk about it.
Or
So
if they've been here, this is a good refresher if they haven't read it yet.
yeah, because
Go
y'all
check
should
it out.
read it. I'm sorry, you should. There's just no comparison. So, oh, I'm over here. Okay, so that is The Surviving Trace by Calla Reed. Like I said, this is the first book in a trilogy, and it is the same couple. You have to read all three to get to the final, to the ending, to get to your happily ever after. This is about Serene and Etienne. So Serene is living in present time. She and her best friend have an antique store. They love to go out to flea markets and stuff and get items and bring them back to the store, and then they, refurbish and put them out. So she is really drawn to photographs from the past. And her friend brings home a box from a flea market that has these pictures in it, and one has a picture of these four guys in front of a plantation house in the early 1900s. And Serene is just like, who is this one guy in this picture? She becomes obsessed with it. She is engaged. She has a fiance, and he's getting really annoyed that she's really staring at this picture. And at one point he tosses into the fire. And later that night, they have a fight. Later that night, she ends up falling through time to 1912, and she's at this plantation house. And there's this party going on, and everybody's calling her Serene. Like, they're all calling her by her name, but she doesn't know who any of these people are. And this guy comes up to her, and he's all mad. He's like fuming mad. And she's like, who is this? What's going on? And he's like, stop playing games, Serene. You're my wife, and you know it. So she has taken the place of Etienne's wife, who's also named Serene, who looks exactly like him or like her. But the Serene from 1912 was a bitch. Let's just put it mildly. She was horrible, horrible woman. I just their story, and I know I've said this before. It is what I refer to as an epic love story. It is just, oh, it's perfect. Like, it's just one of those, this trilogy, I know it's the same for you, it evokes like all the emotions, and you are so rooting for this couple, and I just love it so much. Like, I would rather read this over Highlander any day. It is just so much better.
Do you mean Outlander?
Shoot, Highlander, Outlander, same dang difference. A guy in a kilt, guys. A guy in a kilt.
We're like, what is she talking about? Highlander.
No, my brain just went. And I know that we have a subscriber from Scotland. Please forgive me. I am so sorry. But yeah. I know we have one.
All right.
Okay. Yeah,
Next.
Outlander sucks. Okay, anyhow, it doesn't suck. I'm sorry.
Right. I discovered a new to us author. This book came out in March of 2023, and so it was her first book. So this is Before We Came by Sloane St. James.
Okay.
And I can't find the timer. I mean, I can find the timer, but my mouse disappeared on me. Okay. So this is about Birdie, whose mom, she's like in her mid-20s, and her mom dies. Her and her mom did not have a good relationship. Her mom was pretty cold and almost cruel to her in some of the flashbacks that we see through the book. And Birdie's mom dies, and Birdie finds this photo that should have been her when she was very, very little. And she realizes that she doesn't think it's her. And there's a few other things that start not adding up. And it turns out she was actually kidnapped when she was about 6 years old. Her family in the present have never given up trying to find her. And so, as you can imagine, it's probably taken its toll on some of the people that were closest to her. So she ends up reconnecting with them. And this also leads her to reconnecting with Lonan. Lonan, I think is how you'd say his name. And they, when they were little, like were very good friends. And she was only 6, and I think he was 7 or 8, or maybe she was just about 7. And they share like their first little like kids kiss in a tree fort together. And Jessica, I don't think I actually ever ended up setting the timer. Sorry. If you want to switch back over. I thought I did when I had the whole mouse drama, but I didn't.
Hey,
And
look,
so
look,
this
it's
is
my $500 cup.
this is her reconnecting with him, with her family. And then we're also kind of, it goes through some flashbacks. We're kind of solving the mystery of how all of this kind of unfolded. So it's a little bit of a romantic suspense as well. There were a few times where I was felt like some of the things with the characters were a little bit of a stretch. And I kind of found myself being more interested in how she ended up getting kidnapped and not so much in the love interest. But this was her first book, and for a first book, this was a solid 4 stars for me. I definitely want to read more. She has a couple more books in this series. And so I think for a first book, like this really makes me want to read more by this author. So I definitely recommend going and checking her out.
Okay. All right. So for my next book, it's actually a bind up of 4 novellas. So technically I read 8 this week, but we're going to talk about this one in one lump sum, because it's just easier that way. It really is. You guys will figure it out when I start talking about it. So I read a bind up of Riz-Diverse Tales by Ruby Dixon. So this is 4 books. It's The Alien's Mail Order Bride, Pretty Human, When She's Married, and When She's Bold. So Riz-Diverse is another spinoff of Ice Planet Barbarians, but this is about the Masaka dudes, the blue dudes, and they're not the ones that have been on that planet. Like, they're the original blue dudes from and where they came from. But this is about 4 girls who have been, kidnapped from Earth, and they were sold or bought or whatever by all different types of people, and or not people, aliens, and they have managed to leave or escape the situations that they were in, and they're on a farming planet. Each one of them needs a husband for reasons, and this is how they find their husbands. This is what happens. There's hijinks that ensue. There's great little meanings behind each story. They're all great, but they're all short little novellas, and it comes as a bind up on Audible, and so that's what I did. They were all 4 stars. Loved them. And it was what I needed this week. It was lighthearted, and it was what I needed. So that's what we went with. So, yay.
All right.
All 4 stars. Yeah. I mean, if you've read any Ruby Dixon, like, you should be reading the Riz-Diverse Tales too. So.
Okay.
Okay. Next.
Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So my next book is The Year We Hid Away by Serena Bowen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second book in the Ivy Years. I read the first book a while ago, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to read this one. So this is about Scarlett and Bridger. Scarlett's dad has been accused of some pretty horrific things, and it sort of turned her into a pariah at her school. So she is headed off to college now. She's changed her name. She used to play hockey. She was supposed to be going to this college as a hockey star, and she decided she's not going to do that anymore. She's just going to keep her head low and hope nobody recognizes her, because she really doesn't want to be associated with this whole mess, and she doesn't want people to treat her differently. She meets Bridger. Bridger's kind of dealing with all his own stuff. Bridger is he basically takes his sister from his mom. She's 8 years old, and his mom is a drug addict, and he's like, she can't live like this. So he takes her, brings her back to the dorm, and figures they can make it through the year of him sneaking her in and out of the dorm so he can take care of her. And so he has given up like everything to take care of his sister. But for some reason he kind of lets Scarlett in, and then Scarlett starts to panic because of all the stuff going on with her dad, that this could risk Bridger's ability to keep custody of his sister. And so there's some stuff with that. I really, really enjoyed this. It was a little angsty, a little emotional, a little dark for Serena Bowen as well. So I would definitely recommend checking triggers on this one. But I really enjoyed it. Solid 4 stars.
We're going to see Serena Bowen in Seattle. I think she's going to be at Rain City.
Is that the one she's going to be at?
I think so. I know we're going to see her this year. I'm pretty sure it's at Rain City. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So I'm excited to get to meet her and maybe grab one or two of my favorite books from her, even though I already have a couple of my favorite books from her. But
yes, it is at Rain City. I am very excited to see Emma Scott at Rain City.
Yeah, like I'll take, if she doesn't have special editions of my favorites, I'll just take them with me and have her sign them. But
yeah,
so excited. All right. Okay, so for my last book.
Okay.
Okay, this was a little bit of a disappointment. I don't know. So I read Hunter by Eden Summers. And I'm going to continue on in the series because I've seen this around a lot. It seems to be, people seem to like it. And I didn't go look through the reviews to know for sure. I did see a couple that kind of agree with me here. So this is about Steph, or Emma Stevens, she goes by Steph, and Hunter. So at the beginning of this book, we have Steph, who is kind of her own little vigilante, and she goes and she does a little payback to guys who harm women in whatever capacity. And so she's undercover, she's disguised, and she's giving a little payback to, I think he's like a senator's son or the mayor's son or something like that. And when she leaves, he's alive. And when she leaves, she goes to a bar, and that is where she meets Hunter. Now, he gives her the story that he's there to help his sister, whose husband has either hurt her or left her. I can't remember 100%, but he's there to help his sister. And they hit it off that night. They go back to her house to have a one-night stand when she finds that there's a gun in the back of his jeans or his pants. And so she kind of kicks him out. Come to find out, he's there for her. Both of them have this underlining, like this thing that they're doing. Like they both have secrets. There's things going on. He becomes a little obsessed with her, but it wasn't. The beginning was great, and I was like, "Ooh, what's going on here?" And then it, like, once we got to that part, and I just kind of got bored with it. So it had a strong beginning and it had potential. It just fell short. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed the first half quite a bit. Now, and I do have to say, this could be me, because when I was listening to this book, I got the phone call from the hospital that we had to take my daughter back because she had an infection. And so it kind of interrupted the middle of the book. But when I was looking at some other reviews, I wasn't the only one that felt this way. So part of me wants to think that maybe it was me, but I don't think so. So.
Okay.
All right.
What?
I do want to read the other books in the series, though. All right, Mandy. So what else do you got next? Tell me about your next book.
So next, I have one of my favorite reads ever, Jessica. I love this so much. I got it as an ARC, so I immediately went and put it on my Amazon wish list for a big hint for my husband. Because my birthday is coming up. Like,
she's really finally going to be as old as me.
Yes. April 7th, I will be the same age.
Do it.
I will finally be the same age as Jessica. So here is hoping that is one of the 44 books that I get for my 44th birthday. Exactly. I'm not holding my breath on that with my husband.
Mandy and I have figured out this newer system that we record on, how we get certain things to come up. So we were just playing with that. That was fun. Okay.
So I got the ARC. I like literally was screaming when I got the ARC. I was so excited.
Yeah, I know you called me, so I know what it is. So, okay, cool.
Okay. Right. Book number 9 in the Perfectly Imperfect series. Let me find the timer. I'm going to go way over, I'm sure. And so this is Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. If you have not read this series, do yourself a favor and go grab book 1 and read it. This series is fantastic. Book 9 right now is sitting as like my favorite in this series, but they're all so good. So this is Kai and Nira's story. We saw Kai a couple books back when he gets rescued. We start this story in backing up a few years, and he is a hitman, and he gets hurt, and Nira happens to be driving by, and for whatever reason she sees him and decides to pull over and help him. She realizes this is not a good idea, but she's still just drawn to him, and that's how they meet. And he begins to kind of watch over her, and he does things to get her attention. And there's a parsley situation that was just heart melting. I do not want to give anything away in this because I just don't want to give anything away. So again, we have Mafia. We have a slow burn. This is definitely a slow burn, but it's one of those slow burns where you are loving it the whole time. It is dark, obviously. It's the perfectly imperfect world, but I loved this book so much. So I know I'm not really giving a ton of information, but again, I don't want to spoil anything. Like, it is just phenomenal. And I will say that I know who the next couple is going to be, which she has not announced, but when you read the book,
That's it up.
and I cannot wait because I feel like that might then be my favorite book. So this is a series like that you just keep reading and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this book. And then it's like the next book, oh my gosh, no, it's this one.
You think that you have a favorite, and then the next book comes out. And then you're like, crap, now that's my favorite. And depending on the day of the week, I have a different favorite in that series. Like, they've all been my favorite at one point in time. So, I mean, if it's, today you could ask me and I'll be like, oh, it's number 5. And tomorrow you can ask me and I'll be like, oh, it was number 3. But there's always, it changes. I love all of those books.
Yes. I read all 7 pretty close together.
Yeah.
And I read the 8th book when it came out in October. And then I not so patiently waited for the 9th book.
Yeah.
But these are books that you can read. Like, they don't feel repetitive at all. There is not like a formula that she's using. It is just phenomenal.
And I think I saw somewhere where the next series will be the children. It'll be a
Yes, she is going to do a next generation, but she hasn't said that she's officially done with this. She's thrown out a lot of new stuff that she's planning, but it sounds like we might still be working in this world a little bit longer, and as well as starting to get the next generation.
And these are her only books. This series is it under that name, unless she's writes under a different pen name. This is it. And I'm always amazed when I read these books that, they're not very long. They're on the shorter end, but they're
nope, this one's over 400 pages.
Oh, this one got way longer. Most of them are just around that 2 to 3 at the most range.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she can write. She can write. So, yeah. All right.
I wish she would be somewhere.
So far.
At a signing. I would love to meet her.
Yeah. So.
Yes. So.
All right.
Totally worth it. Go read this book if you've read the other 8. If you've not read them, I highly recommend reading them in order because you do start to see like other people and things. Like, there's some people in this book that some stuff I can't tell you, but there's some people in this book, Jessica, that you are going to love because one of your favorites is in this book. Yay! Being his typical unhinged self. And so you definitely want to read in order. So again, please do yourself a huge favor and go read this series.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else do you have for me?
I read All the Forbidden Things by Leslie Jones. I was really looking forward to this book. This is about Billy, who is our heroine, and Max. And Max is kind of a reformed rock star. And him and his wife have a newborn baby, but their marriage is not really much of a marriage. Like, they basically got married because of her being pregnant. And then right after the baby's born, she kind of disappears on him and shows back up and tells him, hey, I'm leaving you for the guy that I was seeing before you, that I've never stopped seeing. And after she leaves him, she gets in a car accident. The boyfriend of hers, is killed, and she has, I think it's like broken legs or something. So she has to go somewhere to be cared for. So he ends up agreeing that she can come back to the house because this will help his image. So he's not kicking out the mother of his child and all this stuff. And so in the meantime, Billy has a lot of her own drama going on. And she then goes to nanny for Max. We're over 100 pages into this book before the two of them are back to get like in the same room. They know of each other because Max and her brother are best friends. So she knows who he is. But before, like in this situation, before the couple like actually sees each other, we're over 100 pages in of like just trying to build to this. So I got kind of bored. I didn't really see the connection between the two of them. And I felt, and this is my own personal bias, so I understand that other people might read this book and not be bothered by this, but I felt at times that this baby was more of a pawn between him and his wife. And sometimes that will happen in books, but usually, like, the character you're supposed to be rooting for isn't behaving that way. And I kind of felt like that was what was going on for him, too. And maybe that wasn't how it was supposed to come across. That's just how I ended up taking it. And then it's funny how we talk way more about books we don't like than the books we like. We're just like, oh my God, it was so good. Just go read it. And then the books we
Seriously.
don't like, we're like, listen here. Point one, point two, point three. Like we just go on.
Let me pull out the PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly. But I just, as people are probably getting bored with this review, I got bored with the book. I just couldn't connect to the characters at all. And I think the problem is it just took way too long to actually get them. I don't think that's a slow burn, because a slow burn is when the characters meet, but it takes a really long time before something happens between them. This was a slow start because we're literally over 100 pages in before
Mhm.
they're even in the same room together. And
Yeah.
then I just like didn't get it. And also, if you're a rock star and you have all this money, your PR team could spend this however you want. You could send her off to her own like physical rehab place or something like that.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I am alone in this because the book is rated like a 4.07 on Goodreads. So most people liked it. So it must just be me. I don't know. I'm going to read something
That
else by her.
you have to take into account how many people have read it and how many people have rated it. I mean, that's the other thing too. So, I mean, just because it has that rating doesn't mean that it's an amazing book.
Well, it wasn't for me, but it is for other people. But I will read more by her. We're going to actually see her at the Rockies. So I'm going to try something else by her because I'm just wondering if it was just this book for me.
Okay. All right.
All right. We're done.
So that's it. That's it. That's our week, guys. That's a wrap. This
Yeah.
was a shorter one. This was a shorter week for both of us, but that's okay. So, yay. All right. So, there you have it, folks.
All right. So make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And comment below. Have you read any of these books that Jessica and I just didn't jive with this week? And if so, how did you feel about them? What's a really good book that you've read? Just tell us all the bookish things in the comments. We love hearing from you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.